I'm Rabbi Dr. Asher Meir from the Business Ethics Center of Jerusalem. This series will familiarize us with what Jewish tradition teaches about kosher selling. Our lesson today is, where do we draw the line between positive spin and forbidden deception? It turns out that this is not a new dilemma and was discussed in various contexts by the sages of the Talmud 1500 years ago. One Talmudic passage in particular gives us a remarkable overview of the legal and ethical principles that will help us to promote our products without deceiving our customers. In Babylonia, 1500 years ago, there was one town where all the butchers were Jewish. In normal circumstances, they would sell only kosher meat to both their Jewish and non-Jewish customers. However, at times it would happen that they would only be able to obtain non-kosher meat. Of course, selling non-kosher meat to Jewish customers was out of the question. But what about the non-Jewish customers? Well, it turns out that just like today, in Babylonia of those times, there were non-Jews who thought that it was good that Jewish butchers had to answer to a higher authority, as the Hebrew national advertisements used to say, and they would prefer kosher meat. As a result, the sages of the Talmud decided that it was necessary to inform also the non-Jewish customers that the meat in the butcher shops today was not kosher. Then the question arises, how do we inform them? One sage opined that we should announce, meat for the soldiers has arrived. Since the average Babylonian non-Jew would figure out that the average Babylonian soldier is not really careful to eat kosher meat, this is enough to inform most people. Another rabbi objected, why don't we say, carrion for the soldiers has arrived? The answer, this would give a negative impression. Since carrion has a negative connotation, people would be put off from buying. Are we then not deceiving them? The answer is no. Again, since the average person is able to figure it out without any real effort, therefore any person who does not realize that meat for the soldiers is not kosher meat is really only deceiving himself. From this story we learn a number of principles. The first principle we learn is that we are not allowed to deceive our customers even on a relatively minor point. After all, the non-Jews in this town of Babylonia were not forbidden to eat non-kosher meat. They didn't insist on it. They merely preferred kosher meat, viewing it as a sign of quality. Even on this relatively minor point, it was forbidden to deceive them. Another equally important lesson is that we are forbidden to deceive people even passively. After all, the butcher shops do not have a huge sign, kosher meat only. The very fact that the non-Jewish customers had a reasonable expectation of obtaining kosher meat means that the butchers were obliged to either provide it or to inform that they were not providing it. At the same time, we learn that it is permissible to inform the customer in a delicate way. There's no need to be heavy-handed to inform in the way that will put them off. We're allowed to get the message across in a way that has a positive spin. How does this principle play out in today's business environment? I'll give you some examples. One example of an attractive description which still gets the message across is what we used to call used cars, but today they're called pre-owned. Now it's true that technically speaking, even a new car was pre-owned by the seller, but I think almost every person will figure out that a pre-owned car means that it's used. A similar expression is an open box item in electronics. It's true that the box is not really open, but every person knows or can easily find out that this means an object that was returned by a customer or by a dealer at the previous time. What kind of descriptions do cross the line into deception? Here's an example. A well-known nutrition drink for the infirm was marketed to healthy people with the advertising slogan that it was highly recommended by physicians. This is truly misleading. The physicians did not recommend this drink for normal healthy adults, only for infirm individuals, and the average person would not be able to easily figure out this misleading message. Another example, for many years some eggs were marketed with the label Animal Care Certified. It's true that the hens were held to a higher standard of care than normally required by law, but this was still very far from the humane standards that most customers would expect from this kind of labeling, Animal Care Certified, and in fact legal action put an end to this labeling practice. In sum, Judaism has a positive attitude towards business and selling. Many of the greatest Talmudic sages were themselves businessmen. It is permissible to give your product a positive spin, a positive image by giving it an attractive description, but it is always forbidden to give the customer a misleading or deceptive impression on any aspect of the product that's important to him.